with the election in mind, this has become an election issue. Planting trees became an election issue, right? There are parties that are promising to plant billions of trees. So I wanted to know, just how hard is it to plant trees, especially in those numbers? Let's find out from someone in the forestry industry. John Betts joins me on the line. He's the executive director of Western Forestry Contractors Association. John, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you on. So let me ask you this. You watch this federal election campaign and you hear a party say, we're going to plant 2 billion trees. Do you go in your mind, ka-ching, ka-ching? Or do you say, oh my goodness, how are we going to do that?
Well, I do a bit of both, actually.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you. We're very grateful, of course, that the federal government has started to commit money to some of the problems we have here in British Columbia and other parts of the country. I mean, we've had 5, 10, 15 years, a mountain pine beetle has destroyed an area the size of England, and we of course have other sort of challenges now as a subsequence of that. We're seeing great wildfires, so we do need some help out here in British Columbia.
And I would imagine that the manpower, the people power you need, is staggering. How do you get that? If you had to plant 2 billion trees, how do you find the people for that? Just how much effort goes into the planting of one tree before you multiply it by 2 billion?
It's funny. We used to do a calculation that the amount of effort, the cumulative effort it takes to plant our annual tree planting numbers, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 million seedlings, and now it's going up to 300 million. But it was equivalent in terms of the ergonomic weight that your spine had to take to picking up the Great Pyramid and putting it back down 8 times. So that's one way of looking at how much work it is. At an individual level, it is demanding. You are probably working at, and we've done this by measuring oxygen and blood and so on, you are working at an Olympian level of exertion.
An Olympian level of exertion. So you need like the fittest of the fit to do this job.
Well, as much as fitness is a part of it, the other part of it is people's motivation. And people, the system's built on a piecework basis. So that helps. If you're a person that's self-motivated and determined and can endure the various indignities and suffer the benefits of planting trees and all the challenges that go with it, which is, I'm thinking of just what it takes to be out there all day planting trees. There are lots of other benefits that go with it as well, not just the money part. I mean, you're out working in the woods, you're out doing good, hard work. You're actually making a difference in terms of the environment. So it's a lot of a mental state as well. So
John, have you done it?
I first planted trees in 1967 in Ontario and swore I'd never do it again. But I've actually spent most of my life involved in tree planting one way or the other. So be careful what you think.
Yeah. So why don't you break it down for us? You mentioned that you're doing good, and there's that must be an immense rush that comes from that. But what's the worst part of it all? If you've got to spend a summer or whatever, a full season planting trees.
Well, I think it is wearing on your body over time. And contractors have learned, believe it or not, that if you work shorter shifts and get more rest time, which sounds odd, generally the better workers will work 3 days, or the better crews will work 3 days and take 1 day off. So it's very important to pace and to recover. If you go too long, you start getting symptoms of chronic fatigue. So it is very important, and we've also learned, we've had physiotherapists come out, they've deconstructed how we hurt ourselves and have instructed us on ways to prevent that. It's having quite a lot of success. So there's nothing wrong with humans doing very hard work. We're actually designed to do it as a species. And of course, we don't do a lot of work in our current society. So this is quite, it's I won't say it's a throwback exactly, but we humans are determined. We can endure. We can do hard work. And goodness, generations prior to us did this kind of work as a routine. So we can do it. And it's really quite cool to see young people who maybe have never been exposed to this kind of exertion and this kind of work finding the inherent rewards of hard work.
We're speaking with John Betts, Executive Director of Western Forestry Contractors Association, about planting trees, and a whole bunch of them. 2 billion is some of the numbers being bandied about there. John, you mentioned that right now you're doing 250, you're ramping up to 300 million, so 250 million right now. How do you multiply that by 8? How do you do it?
We're going to do that over time. What this will do, I mean, we're not going to be planting 2 billion trees all at once. These, if you have to sort of read a little bit between the lines of the political promises because they're very similar. They're talking about adding in 50 to 100 million more seedlings, depending on the promises, but on an annual basis. So the industry won't be going in one jump to that level. That would be impossible. So what we're doing this year, as an example, we're planting about 40 to 50, I should say, what we're going to be doing next year, we're going to go up from around 270 million, which is what we did this year, which increased from 250 the year before. We're now going up to 300 million. So we're going up in increments, and in those increments, we get a chance to recruit, train, develop the skill sets that the workers need, get them to come back by paying them very well, which is what's been happening the last little while. And now we're getting higher return rates. People are motivated. People are saying they had a really good season this year. They're looking forward to the next one. Hopefully they'll bring their friends. And that's how we're going to get the extra 500 to 1,000 more workers to come out and be productive next year.
Can you give me the numbers there? Like, how much can I make? Like, give me an example of a time period that I'd have to go do this, and what kind of money I could bring back home.
Well, obviously, you've got a great range of skill sets and experience. So I'll start. To be fair, I'll start at the bottom end of the rung. When you first pick up a shovel and walk out onto this block, onto any sort of tree planting block, you probably will go into shock. If you've never seen what a block looks like that's been burned or been logged, it'll probably send you into, that's not what I thought it was going to look like, and that's going to take a while to overcome that shock. But in the first 3 weeks, you're probably not going to make much more than what the British Columbia minimum wage is. But during that time, you'll be mentored, you'll be taught, you'll be instructed, and hopefully you'll have got some training even prior to having arrived on the block, and you'll start to build up. And you'll be able to get, I'm not surprised if you start seeing people being able to average in a 8 to 10 hour day, maybe $200 a day, which isn't bad. And as you get more skilled, it goes up. And what if you're really among the top ranked planting people that have been at it for in your second and third year, you've figured it out, you're starting to make $300, $400, $500 a day is not out of the question. That would be the highest end. I wouldn't want to misrepresent. Most workers are probably making $200 to $300 a day, but they're hopefully improving all the time. Now, of course, every contract is different because you may be on one area that's flat ground, and as we call it, a cream show, and then you may be up on a steep ground. Now, you're going to get paid more to be on difficult ground. The piece rates go up according, but you're going to have good days and bad days.
I got to ask you one last question, John, quickly here, because I got an interesting note from a listener via the text message line. What kind of trees are you planting? And this texter references this Royal Empress tree that apparently grabs more CO2 from the atmosphere. What is the type of tree that's getting planted here?
Right now, we're planting conifers, pretty much the trees that grow well on the sites that here in British Columbia. But those kinds of ideas are not that far-fetched. We do have to begin to plant other species. I'm thinking deciduous species, not so much for carbon sequestration, but to interrupt the tremendous expanses of area that are right now wildfire fuel. In other words, we've got to be doing a mix of reforestation. We've got to log certain areas to take out the dead wood that's going to contribute to fire. So there's a lot of dimensions besides just the carbon sequestration side. But we will be looking at whatever species can sequester wood appropriate to, or sequester carbon, I should say, appropriate to the sites, with a view to, we've also got to make sure we don't set up conditions for these terrific, intense, and severe wildfires to come in and wipe out everything we've been doing. So it's a bit of a dynamic out there, and to be honest with you, it is a bit of a gamble, but we're optimistic that we can manage it.
John, this was a super interesting interview. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, I'm really glad you guys are interested, and thanks for the coverage, because we do need to get people to come out to BC to plant trees.
Well, there you heard it. Your next career could be out in BC planting trees. John Betts, Executive Director of Western Forestry Contractors Association.